What's going on, guys? Welcome in to the Chief Zone podcast on a Sunday, July the 20th, the same day the Chiefs are reporting to training camp. My name is Farzin Vasugian, and yes, once again, another bonus edition of the Chief Zone podcast. I keep saying that this is going to be the last podcast before training camp, but then something has to happen, either good or bad. Today, it's not good, but it's also not bad. It's great because the Kansas City Chiefs have extended George Karlaftis to a 4-year extension, signing him through the 2030 season. Yes. Big signing for the Kansas City Chiefs and massive for the Chiefs defense here. A lot to go over, specifically with George Karlaftis and what this means for him. Did the Chiefs make the right move here, specifically with the details? All of that, we'll go over that, and what this could mean for George Karlaftis in his future as well, in terms of a third contract, whether here in Kansas City or elsewhere. Hopefully it's still here in Kansas City. And just go over some of the numbers he had last year that some people just might not be aware of, in terms of Karlaftis and everything he did last season on the gridiron. And then my favorite topic, we got to talk about Brett Veach, the best general manager in football. And I'll say it right now, if you don't think Brett Veach is the best GM in football, you're incorrect. What argument does anyone have that Brett Veach is not the best general manager? I would love to hear that argument from somebody, because I don't think you can find anyone better. And I know there's one name out there, specifically in Howie Roseman, that some people will push back with. And Howie Roseman's great, but he's not as good as Brett Veach. Brett Veach and Howie Roseman are galaxies apart. Let's get right into it quickly. Got to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. If you guys want to check out any of the Chiefs action coming up, or maybe other football action across the NFL, or maybe college football, KU, K-State, MU, whatever your team is that you root for, you can get your tickets over at SeatGeek. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you can use my promo code Farzine and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can put in my promo code Farzine and save $20 off their first order. Real quickly, one last thing before we move on here. A huge shout out to Garrick Dieter and Noah Gray, the Kansas City charity pickleball event hosted by Garrick and Noah at Chicken and Pickle in North Kansas City. A huge success. Team Lammy, their whole production crew, a lot of people behind the scenes that you guys might not be aware of. Fantastic job. This was the first event, the inaugural charity pickleball event that they put together and hosted. Great event, great turnout for an inaugural event, and I hope they have many more of these in the future. If you guys had a chance to go, I'm sure you guys all had a great time. If you didn't, check it out. In hopefully the following off season, they'll put another one of these together, and you'll be able to come out for that one. So just had to get that out. And also a big thank you to Garrick Dieter, Noah Gray, Mike Pinnell, guys who I got to interview and talk to. And if you haven't had a chance to do so, check out my social media. I put all the content out there of some of the comments that they provided in my exclusive interview with all of those guys. So big shout out to all of those guys. Had a good time meeting them, getting to know them a little bit, and talking to them about non-Chiefs football and also some Chiefs football as they get ready for the upcoming season, specifically Gray and Pinnell. And of course, Dieter, now an analyst, giving his thoughts on the Chiefs. But there's that. Let's get into the breaking news on this Sunday afternoon. An edge rusher has been signed, and that is George Karlaftis signing an extension at the age of 24. A big contract for the young man. 4-year deal worth $93 million, $62 million of that guaranteed. He's got an average annual salary of $23.25 million. That will rank him 10th among edge rushers, according to Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star. And something that was mentioned by Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, he can earn himself a third contract at the age of either 28 or 29. That's pretty significant. You're that young. You're balling out there. Keep one thing in mind with George Karlaftis. And you could say this about the entire Chiefs draft class from 22, none of those guys have missed a Super Bowl. Darian Kennard was obviously on the other side of the Super Bowl this past year, but that entire 2022 draft class has never missed a Super Bowl. They have been part of a Super Bowl every year since they've been drafted in 2022. Karlaftis has had a big hand in Kansas City's success. McDuffie has had a big hand in Kansas City's defense, helping them be as good as they are. And we'll get into McDuffie later on because I know a lot of the questions have kind of shifted towards McDuffie and what this really means for him and his future. And I think there is some good news that will come out of that. And we don't know exactly all of the contract, the structure, the details, how that's going to look within the 4 years from 2027 through 2030. So we'll wait on that, but I think it'll be more positives than negatives here because I've had my hesitation. Can the Chiefs find a way to get both of them? And after looking at some of the contract numbers, not with Karlaftis specifically, but just with the Chiefs down the road on over the cap, it is very possible that they will find a way to extend McDuffie. Maybe not in the immediate near future. Maybe not even the season at all, kind of like Trey Smith. Maybe they wait another year on that. But I think it will be done at some point before Trent McDuffie's contract expires. I would argue at the latest it happens before training camp next season. But we'll get into that later on. For right now, with the Karlaftis extension, and just looking at what he's done to earn this contract, when you look at what he did last year, most recent year with the Chiefs, he was first in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. All of these numbers come from PFF. He was first in the NFL in quarterback hits with 21. He was 13th in the league in QB pressures with 61. He was tied third in the league in passes batted down. He's one of the best in the NFL. And getting a hand up and swatting down, or at the very least, tipping those passes at the line of scrimmage. One of the best to do it. He played the 9th most snaps in the regular season among edge rushers. He played 1,006 snaps altogether if you include the postseason. That's more than any player. Now, of course, when we're going to include postseason stats, and if you played all the way to the Super Bowl, of course, you will be, number one or very close to number one in a lot of those types of categories. But the reason I'm pointing that out, still not to compare him to anyone else, because you can't really do that. That's not fair because there are fewer and fewer players who make it into January and then February. But my point is, this guy's been a massive workhorse. This is someone who has played a lot for the Chiefs and has been very good. Now, I think he's only going to get better. I don't think Karlaftis has hit his best season yet. I don't think this guy's hit his prime yet. He still has a lot more to give, I think. And you want to earn that third contract at the age of 28 or 29, potentially a record-breaking contract, because we always get those record-breaking contracts at specific positions or even all of the non-QB positions. You hear about those every offseason. I think we've had 3 record-breaking contracts among non-QB positions. First, I think it was Jamar Chase, and then Max Crosby, or maybe it was the other way around, Myles Garrett. And now we have TJ Watt. I mean, that's happened a few times this offseason. But when you look at what George Karlaftis has accomplished with the Chiefs, he's one of the best edge rushers, and in my opinion, the most underrated edge rusher in the league right now. Because when you think of edge rushers, I mean, the top tier guys like Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, those are the guys that get talked about the most, and rightfully so. And I think there's still a gap between those guys and Karlaftis, but I think Karlaftis is going to be moving in that direction in the next couple of years. He had 8 sacks last season, and we all know the story with the Chiefs and their sack total, a big drop-off from last year, or the year before, rather, when they were second in sacks with, I think it was 57, don't quote me exactly, but somewhere around that range. And then they had 18 fewer sacks this past season, going from second to 18th most in the league. And that does need to improve, and I think it will get better. I mean, you have Karlaftis, who, again, you look at him, he was 13th in pressures among edge rushers only. Chris Jones, He was second among interior defensive linemen in pressures. You have Ashton Gelati, Omar Norman Lott, who were both very good at pressuring quarterbacks last season, and I think that'll help. Charles Omenihu will play more this season, hopefully stay healthy. Mike Dana as well. Mike Pennell coming back, I think, is very huge. And I think that's only going to help the Chiefs defense improve. Hopefully the secondary can be better. That definitely needs to improve as well. But I think if all of those things work in Kansas City's favor, which I think it will, especially those two rookie defensive linemen the Chiefs got in the second and in the third rounds, that's going to help Kansas City's sack totals go up. I think that'll help a guy like George Karlaftis improve his sack total, as well as Chris Jones. And I mentioned the defensive line. This is a defensive line that just extended George Karlaftis. They have Chris Jones. They have Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, FAU, Mike Pennell, and they drafted Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott back in April. It's a great deal. And the Chiefs lock up another key piece to a long-term deal. He's signed through the 2030 season. I like this a lot for Kansas City's defense. I really do. And that leads me to my next point with Brett Veach, who's done a phenomenal job since he's been with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll say this right now, simply put, Brett Veach is the best general manager in football. And I think if there's any stance, or if anyone's going to try to dispute this or argue that, sure, you have a right to your opinion and all of that, but you would simply be in the wrong if you want to fight that battle. And I know the number one name that anyone will put out there against Brett Veach would be Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's a great general manager. If you say otherwise, you're incorrect on that also. But what has Howie Roseman done better than Brett Veach? Okay, I mean, Howie Roseman constructed a roster big enough to prevent a three. Okay, I mean, we're not judging general managers, and really football players in general are not going to be graded or judged just on 1 year of work. You've got to look at an overall body of work if we're going to judge general managers. Again, Howie Roseman's done a phenomenal job. No one's saying otherwise. No one that's actually paying attention will say otherwise. But what has he done better than Brett Veach right now? Brett Veach has constructed a roster that's not just great. He's put together a roster to keep the Chiefs very competitive at a championship level. Since 2018, same year Patrick Mahomes took the starting reins at the quarterback position for the Chiefs have never missed an AFC championship game. The worst season with Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback, and for most of Brett Veach's time as GM, which was the 2017 offseason where he got promoted, is an AFC championship loss in overtime. The 2017 season, that was Alex Smith's final year with the Chiefs. That was a wild card loss at home to Tennessee. A rough one, but I think we can look back at that and say, yeah, that was tough, but the Chiefs are in a much better place today. Making the AFC championship, or just the conference championship game alone, 7 years in a row, hosting 6 of those 7, that's not an easy feat. By the way, they did it consecutively 5 years. And the Chiefs have reached the Super Bowl 5 of those 7 years. And again, the 2 years that they barely missed it, overtime losses. Now, regardless whether it's overtime or in regulation, they still made it to the AFC championship game all 7 of those years. And the 2 years they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, well, their worst season is an AFC championship loss. However you want to put it. The Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. They've been to the Super Bowl the last 3 years, winning 2 of them consecutively. What general manager has done a better job than Brett Veach? Let me talk about the negatives with Brett Veach. And I'll give you a spoiler alert. This is not going to be a very long conversation here. Because Brett Veach has not always gotten it right. He's had a couple of bad signings here. I'd say Reggie Ragland, Anthony Hitchens, a couple of signings that just didn't pan out the way anyone in Kansas City wanted it to go. But the wide receiver position, he was criticized about that for a while. That narrative that he can't draft a wide receiver, that's gone away, especially with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy the last 2 years. Yeah, I don't hear any more complaints about Brett Veach and his inability to draft a wide receiver. The only major knock, and this is a major knock on Brett Veach, is specifically the offensive tackle position. That's the only thing that you can really knock Brett Veach on. The Juwan Taylor contract and maybe some of the struggles with drafting an offensive tackle, Wanya Morris, Kingsley Suamataia, who's now been shifted to guard, signing DJ Humphries. A lot of these deals just haven't worked for Kansas City, specifically at offensive tackle. That's the only negative thing about Brett Veach right now. And obviously, he's got a chance to help get rid of that thought that he can't draft and bring in an offensive tackle that can be developed in Kansas City. That can go away with the Josh Simmons pick if that pans out, and I think it will. That's it. Those are the negatives right now when you want to talk about Brett Veach. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting one contract that Brett Veach gave to someone that wasn't a good deal. Maybe I'm forgetting one of those. Maybe you guys can help remind me in the chat. But in general, I mean, Brett Veach, this guy has done what he's needed to do to keep the Chiefs not just competitive, keep them competitive at a championship level. There's competitive and then there's being elite. The Chiefs have been elite the entire time. Look at the contract extensions he's handed out to Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, that big 10-year deal, which is a team-friendly deal, by the way. Extended Chris Jones, Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, Harrison Butker, now George Karlaftis. Guys who have played a very instrumental part in Kansas City's success over the last 3 years. Some of them longer than that, of course. That's what Brett Veach has done. And to go back to the Patrick Mahomes deal, when you look at average approximate value annually, Patrick Mahomes is not even in the top 10 when it comes to highest paid quarterback in the NFL, because other guys are making more money. Other guys are hitting the bank with highest paid QB in NFL history. All those things are second highest. Patrick Mahomes is pretty far down that list, considering what he's accomplished. 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 league MVPs. And look, it hasn't always been roses and rainbows in Kansas City. We know that. We've known easily in Kansas City, and whether you're a Chiefs fan or not, you know this because everyone pays attention to what the Chiefs do. You can't keep everyone. The Kansas City Chiefs have proven in the last 7 years that you cannot keep everyone, no matter how good they are. Obviously, the big one right there is Tyreek Hill. They traded him away. L'Jarius Sneed was traded away. Joe Thuney was traded away. Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed, they let those guys walk. And there are a couple more players in there we can include as well. But even though the Chiefs have not been able to keep everybody, they don't just let someone walk or trade away a key player and just say, yeah, we couldn't keep him. Too bad. Shucks. Well, we wish we could have done better. No, they find a way to make up for those holes. Remember the Tyreek Hill trade in 2022, March of 22? Everybody was talking about how the Chiefs' downfall was coming, that they're going to decline. Patrick Mahomes is not going to have anyone to throw to. Travis Kelce, he's going to get double, triple teamed every single play, and it's going to be impossible for him to have any kind of success whatsoever. Only the complete opposite happened. The Chiefs have gone to a Super Bowl every single year without Tyreek Hill. I'll never forget Super Bowl 57 when the Chiefs and Eagles were playing that week. The media narrative was, there were 2 things that everybody was talking about leading up to Super Bowl 57. Number one was Donna Kelce, because she had a son on each team, and Travis and Jason Kelce. And the second narrative was, how the hell did the Chiefs make it here without Tyreek Hill? Because Chiefs fans were annoyed that season. Remember that year when every single announcer that would broadcast a Chiefs game on CBS, Fox, ESPN, NBC, wherever, they always had to bring up that the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill. I personally did not mind that narrative. I get it. That's a story. That's a big talking point with this football team. I mean, you have to talk about it. And Chiefs fans were annoyed by it. Now Chiefs fans love hearing about that kind of thing because the narrative now is the Chiefs are still a competitive team, even a better football team without Tyreek Hill. Now, the offense could certainly be better. Yes, absolutely. But they found a way. Have they not either won the Super Bowl or reached it every year without him? Because I remember that narrative was, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes is only good because he has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Well, Tyreek Hill has not been on the team for 3 seasons now. Brett Veach has constructed a roster good enough to where this Chiefs team can find a way to get through despite letting go of some of these fan favorites. And listen, 2023, that was quite a year for the Chiefs because wasn't that the year where everyone thought they were vulnerable? They were going to be one and done. And what did they do? They beat Miami, a team that scored a lot. And I don't want to hear about the weather because the weather is not why Miami got blown out in that game. Miami only beat one team with a winning record that entire season. So they beat Miami. But what was next? They had to go on the road. Patrick Mahomes has never had a true road playoff game before. I mean, okay, he had the Super Bowl 55 in Tampa when the Bucs were the home team. First time ever a team got to play as the home team for a Super Bowl. But it was also, the pandemic, I guess. So you didn't have full capacity. So it didn't have the feel of a road game. Okay. But that game in Buffalo, that playoff game, that was a true road playoff game. The Chiefs went and won that one. Then they go and play in Baltimore. Well, the Chiefs were definitely going to lose that one. Nope. Chiefs won that one as well. And a fairly low-scoring affair, too. 17-10. And then they beat the 49ers in the most epic way you can do it. We've only had 2 Super Bowls in overtime. That one was where both teams got possession, and the Chiefs had it in walk-off fashion. And Patrick Mahomes, right before the end of regulation, to lead the Chiefs to tie it with the field goal. And then in overtime, those 2 drives right there, in my opinion, the best drives orchestrated by Patrick Mahomes. And there were some issues in that overtime drive, too, where MVS went backwards. Remember that one? But the Chiefs led the league in drops that year. Now, Brett Veach doesn't deserve credit for the Chiefs overcoming that obstacle with drops and the struggles on offense. But he had a roster in place at the time good enough to overcome that. That's what he deserves credit for. The Chiefs coaches, players, they did the rest. Brett Veach has always put a roster good enough for the Chiefs to make the AFC Championship game at the very least. In the last 3 years after trading Tyreek Hill, they've made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah, lost the last one. Still made it, though. And the 2 years before that, you won the Super Bowl. So I'll repeat that question again. Because I'm on the record saying Brett Veach, and I've said this for a long time, but I think even more so now, Brett Veach is the best general manager in football. Who has done better than Brett Veach? The only name that anyone will use as a pushback would be Howie Roseman. And with everything I just gave you, how he was able to keep the Chiefs competitive at a high level without Tyreek Hill, trading players away, letting a lot of great players walk and still being competitive. Who's done a better job at not just roster construction, but building a team good enough to still play at an elite level and reach the Final Four? I know we don't use the term Final Four in football, but if you will, the Chiefs have made it in the Final Four every year the last 7 years. Howie Roseman's great, but he has not been able to do what Brett Veach has done the last 7 years. Brett Veach and Howie Roseman, those 2 guys are 1 and 2. But there's a pretty big gap between those 2. And Veach ain't 2. I'll tell you that right now. Any argument going against Brett Veach being the best GM in football is just incorrect at this point. All right, I'll read some of you guys' comments here. Ogle says, my only issue is the safety position with Reed gone. I mean, Reed was looking for a big deal. A very similar deal to what he got the first time he signed with the Chiefs. I say the first time like he signed before another time, but um, yeah, he wanted the same deal, and he was not getting that in Kansas City. And I think Jaden Hicks is kind of suited in a position to fill in Justin for Justin Reed and do very well. Blake says the George Karlaftis deal allows Veach more time to get the McDuffie deal done. Yes, I do agree with that. I don't. Here's my prediction right now. I don't think the McDuffie deal happens this year in 2025 calendar year. I think it happens at some point in 2026. I don't know if it's going to be during OTAs or right after the season ends. I don't know when. My guess is it's probably going to happen kind of around this time where they're getting ready for training camp. But I do think the McDuffie deal will get done because I'm looking at Over the Cap, which does a pretty good job of showing the team cap space, the contracts, all these stuff, the cap numbers. 2026, the Chiefs are $60 million in the hole. That is second most, right behind Minnesota. Now, the Chiefs will figure that out. They might, first of all, letting Jawan Taylor go is going to help a big part. They're definitely going to have to renew deals with Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones. That will definitely change things by a lot, but they'll figure that out. Those three moves alone, I think Mike Dana could be a cap casualty because he's got a cap number of just north of $11 million. Christian Fulton, if he doesn't have a very good season, I would think he would get let go as well, though the dead money might be too much, but I think that's where the Chiefs would be. 2027, the Chiefs are $72 million under the cap. Now, that is pre-George Karlaftis contract extension here. So that has not been penciled in yet. By the way, to go out to 2026, McDuffie, obviously he's got the 50-year option for that year. Same with Karlaftis. Karlaftis is still playing under that same 50-year option. That has not changed. Because I think there was some thought that maybe, they put the 50-year option, but maybe they would get rid of it and renew it. George Karlaftis is still playing under that 50-year option, and that cap number there is at almost $15.2 million. Trent McDuffie, by the way, he is at $13.6 million for that 50-year option. But 2027, $72 million under the cap. Obviously, that number will go down probably around $50 million. We'll see what they do with McDuffie. That'll go down again if they can get him to a contract extension, which I think they will. And I think they'll work out some other numbers as well that season, especially with Patrick Mahomes. They got to figure that out as well at that time. But I think the Chiefs are going to be able to pull that off. I really do. Jared's asking, Farzine, do you believe the Chiefs can extend McDuffie now, or do you think a trade situation can happen? So I'm seeing some comments about this. Obviously, I just answered your first question before seeing your question there, Jared. But as far as a possible trade, look, what did we just talk about? We talked about Brett Veach trading away great players and finding a way to have success without those guys. I said for a while, I have not given any firm prediction that the Chiefs will be able to keep two of them. I'm still a little hesitant. I think they can do it. I think they can. But we can't dismiss the possibility completely that they'll get both guys. They got Karlaftis done, but can they get McDuffie done as well? That I don't know. Yolanda says Mahomes wants rings. He'll get the big bag later on. His endorsements will carry him until later then. I think this was about a year or two ago. And I think this came from Forbes. If I'm incorrect, please forgive me. I don't remember exactly where this came from. But the report was Patrick Mahomes makes approximately $23 million from endorsements. Obviously, he does a lot online as well. His wife, Brittany, of course, part owner of the KC Current, along with Patrick. Patrick, of course, has part ownership in the Royals and Sporting KC. And I know Brittany does a lot of online promotions as well. And I'm sure she's not doing those for free out of the goodness of her heart. I'm sure she's making a lot of money from that as well. Listen, I don't know what they make per year. And obviously, it fluctuates because of the way football contracts work. It's not the exact same every single year. But when you just look at the Chiefs right now, Um, but they're paying a lot of money to Mahomes. I mean, about 70 million is the cap number for 2026, 78 million and 74 in 2027. That's because they restructure it, kick the can down the road, that kind of thing. They'll have to adjust that, but I trust Brett Veach will. Let me read some Instagram comments here. Lauren says, this is great news, but worried about losing Trent. Yeah, that's certainly understandable. SD Med 13 has a very similar concern as well. Yeah, a lot of people kind of turning their focus on Trent McDuffie and wondering if that deal gets done. Yeah, those are all valid concerns for sure. And look, I'll say this. And not that anyone wants to hear it, but let's say we live in a world where the Chiefs have to trade Trent McDuffie. They're not going to let him walk. No way. At the very worst, they'll let him walk. Now, they're not going to get the overhaul that they got from Tyreek Hill. That's not happening. However, the Chiefs will get something significant from the Trent McDuffie, a potential Trent McDuffie trade. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that, but if it does, do you not trust Brett Veach at this point? Has Brett Veach not earned your trust by now? With the amount of players he's re-signed and the way he's found a way to keep the Chiefs competitive even after trading away key players, I think we're kind of at a point now. Well, not kind of. We are at a point now to where we can trust Brett Veach and believe that this Chiefs team will still be a contender no matter what they do. As long as you have Brett Veach as your general manager, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes and a stout offensive line, I think the Chiefs will be just fine. Are they going to win the Super Bowl every single year? No. Nobody in NFL history has done that. Nobody. But they'll still be very competitive. They'll still be the team to beat at the end of the day. A lot of people talking about Justin Reed. Moving on, Deb says going to miss Justin Reed, and a few people agreeing with Deb on that one. Yeah. Justin Reed on and off the field was pretty significant. I remember. I still remember when he first signed with the Chiefs in 22. How quickly he got involved in the community. Even though he's now in New Orleans, a lot of times when players get traded or they sign elsewhere, their charity events, they no longer have those events in the city they previously played at. They move them on elsewhere, and Justin Reed still doing some things in the Kansas City community. I mean, that just tells you really what these players think of Kansas City. Maybe they didn't really think much of the city other than the Chiefs and the barbecue they hear about, but once they come here and spend some time here, you hear nothing but great things. We had Damon Heward on the podcast last year, and he had nothing but great things to say about the city. If you go back and listen to what he had to say, his comments. And he talked about how close he was to wanting to stay in Kansas City. I mean, he and his wife, they've got roots. They've got family in Washington all the way out northwest, close to the border of Canada. And they seriously contemplated staying here. That's how much people love Trent Green. I mean, that's the guy who's moved around a lot over the years. He got traded from the Chiefs, went to Miami. He came back to Kansas City after his playing career because this is where he wanted to be. And I know he and his wife, they did an interview on that kind of thing about wanting to come back to Kansas City because they were living in Miami and they wanted to come back to Kansas City, including his kids, according to Trent and his wife, Julie. So just tells you what people really do think of Kansas City. I love this tweet I got from, someone who obviously does not know what they're talking about, responding to me saying that Veach is a better GM than Howie Roseman. LMAO, Veach just gave $62 million to a mediocre edge defender. Okay, obviously you're not paying attention. The team had Kareem Hunt at running back last year. Yeah, this is a guy who does not pay attention. I mean, if your criticism is that he gave $62 million guaranteed to a, quote, mediocre edge rusher, and that Kareem Hunt was the running back, I mean, just tweet that you do not know football. Just be honest and say you do not pay attention. You just read the box scores or watch the highlights, or you just watch the last couple of minutes of a football game and think you know what did or didn't happen. I mean, come on. If your argument is that Kareem Hunt was the running back last year, you did not pay attention. Isaiah Pacheco got injured early in the season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was not available. I mean, the Chiefs were really in a desperate spot where they were getting guys off the street. And the Chiefs were very firm on not bringing back Kareem Hunt. But they did, obviously with some desperate measures. But I think there was also some due diligence done as well in that area as well with Kareem Hunt. If that's the pushback you're going to give me, just be honest and say you don't pay attention. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Another tweet I got, whatever extra amount Tyreek ultimately got by forcing a trade from KC hardly seems with it in hindsight. Hardly seems with it in hindsight. I'm guessing there's an autocorrect there that I don't know. I can't tell. Listen, Tyreek's making a lot of money in Miami, but did you not see him after the Dolphins lost to the Jets in the regular season, week 18? Did you not see Tyreek Hill in that interview he did? And sure, maybe it was the heat of the moment. It just happened, that kind of thing. Dude, he does not look like a guy who is happy. He is not happy in Miami. Was this not the guy who, when he got traded, said, yeah, Tua is the most accurate guy. I've never played with him before. Never played a game with him, but he is the most accurate quarterback. Well, you haven't been able to prove that. I mean, the Miami Dolphins have yet to win a playoff game since acquiring Tyreek Hill. If that's the argument, I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Yeah, no way we're thinking Veach is even close to Howie. I mean, no way. Come on. Enrique says, I think Kareem Hunt is going to shock a lot of people this upcoming year. He's going to be in shape after camp. Yeah, this is a really good point. Because last year he was recovering, was off the couch. Yeah, he was. And in fact, I think they showed that he was training at the hallway of the high school or middle school he went to with an old trainer of his. That's where he was. And I know statistically, yeah, Kareem Hunt doesn't have the greatest numbers. Dude, what he did really did provide the offense a nice little jolt that they needed desperately without Rice, Hollywood, Pacheco, CEH. I mean, I know CEH never lived up to expectations, but the year before when everyone was dropping passes, CEH was one of the very few bright spots on offense. So the fact that, you know, anyone that wants to use Kareem Hunt as a pushback, it's like, that is the worst argument you can put together here. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading your comments as okay. I'm getting another Eagles commenter here. Veach has reached 5 Super Bowls because he has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Give Howie Mahomes and he's winning 10 Super Bowls. Why are we? I don't understand this whole hypothetical scenario that people want to jump into. I see this all the time with Mahomes. The two, oddly enough, because we're discussing the Chiefs and the Eagles here, the two quarterbacks I see that receive this criticism the most are Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. I'm seeing a lot of people not give Jalen Hurts any credit this year, and I think that's BS. I'm seeing a lot of people say Jalen Hurts only won a Super Bowl before Burrow, Allen, Jackson is because he's on a stacked team. So what? That's not anyone's fault. Like at some point, you can't just fault a guy for not being on a bad team. Or not being on a bad team and being on a great team. You can't do that. Because I see it all the time. If Hurts was playing on some other team, well, then he would not have a Super Bowl ring. Okay. And what good does that discussion of a scenario do? A hypothetical scenario do? I don't get it. People do it with Mahomes all the time. Well, if Mahomes got drafted to Cleveland, he would not have the same level of success. No shit. Do you think if Tom Brady was playing on a team with 21 other scrubs as starters, you think he would have any success? Absolutely not. I mean, we saw what happened with Mahomes when he had to play with backups at the offensive line. Hell, in the 2021 postseason, we saw Brady lose his left tackle in a game against the Rams. Dude, Brady looked lost in that game. I mean, they rallied late, but it was not enough. It was too little, too late. Yeah, you want to give me any quarterback that's won a championship, whether it's Jalen Hurts most recently, Patrick Mahomes, who's doing it a lot in this era right now, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning had a great career. Drew Brees didn't win a lot of championships, but had a great career as well. Joe Montana, very successful. Take all of those elite quarterbacks and you put them on the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, they're not winning championships either. I mean, I don't understand this hypothetical scenario that people use so much for Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. And the argument is, well, if that quarterback was somewhere else, this team would never have a chance. I'm aware. I mean, come on. Like, if your argument is that if the Bears drafted Mahomes and Trubisky went to the Chiefs, that Mahomes would never have any success. I mean, first of all, Mahomes was the first round draft pick. A lot of teams were keeping an eye on Patrick Mahomes. It's not like this guy was just some scrub that came into Andy Reid's offense suddenly and voila, he started playing great. I mean, this guy had been doing just fine in college. Go look up the Baker versus Mahomes game. Come on. I just think that hypothetical argument that so many people love to inject, it's like, okay, you have your hypothetical scenario. What good does that discussion do? I'll never understand it. Yeah, I'm sure. I agree. If Mahomes was on another team, he would suck. So would Brady, Montana, Manning, the other Manning. Any great quarterback ever would be in that same situation. I thought Kareem was a big addition and probably wasn't paid. Yeah, Kareem was not paid much at all. Yeah, that's the person who wrote that does not pay attention. Not at all. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Appreciate all of you guys. Once again, another bonus episode of the Chiefs Zone. We weren't expecting this, but of course, here we are. Players are starting to roll into St. Joe, to my understanding. So we are going to start seeing some players move in to the dorms in St. Joe. That's always fun, moving back into a dorm room when you're in your mid-20s, even 30s. That's always got to be fun. But that means football season is back. Training camp going to be underway this week. A lot of content coming your way. We're going to have the Chiefs Zone podcast Wednesday night. Also Thursday night, Friday night, there will not be a Chiefs Zone podcast, but guess what's coming back Friday night? The Red Friday Q&A live chat. So join us for the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Bring your questions. We will answer every single question. I'll try to keep an eye on Instagram as well, because I have to click on a completely different tab to get Instagram questions. But if you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're watching live, ask your questions there. We'll get into everything. That'll be a lot of fun. So definitely looking forward to doing all those podcasts and live streams for you guys this week. Please make sure you guys join me for all of those. Obviously, these cannot happen without you guys. I definitely appreciate all the support this offseason and in years past. We're ready to have another great year of Chiefs football and talking Chiefs, talking NFL, all that great stuff. So looking forward to all of it. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I will talk to you all later. Take care.